Hi.
Hi, Nicole. Thanks for coming. We're
Yes,
just going to give it about like 5 more minutes for everyone to show up, okay?
fabulous. I'm going to go on mute and stop my video, but I'll be here. I'm logged in and ready to go. Thank you.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'll open it up and then transition over to you. That usually makes him bark. Did it make you bark today? You don't care? Hey, everyone. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes, so just hang tight, okay? Okay, everyone, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm so glad you guys could all join. I wanted to make a couple of announcements before we jump in today. So a couple of things coming up. You might have seen an email from Michelle that we're going to do some brokerage yoga starting next week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So feel free to join that if you can. And then we have training starting in 2 weeks on May the 4th. So I hope you can make it to that as well. Also, I just want to give a big shout out to everyone who has their camera on right now. It makes me really happy to see your faces. So yeah, hi, Emily Burford. Okay, so today we have the lovely Nicole Jensen with us from MIBOR. And she's going to be sharing a bit about the Clear Cooperation Policy that goes live in May. Thanks, Tao. So, Nicole, I'm not going to say anything else. I'm just going to hand it over to you and let you get rolling. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I hope that, please let me know if my internet starts to have issues, because I have had some latency, and I just I've contacted AT&T. I have fiber, everyone, so I'm the best of the best, but for some reason am having some latency issues. So hopefully that does not occur in this time that we have together. So how am I sounding right now? Okay? No delay? Is it all right? Okay, thank you, Mark. Welcome everyone. My name is Nicole Jensen. I'm the Vice President of Business Technology with MYBOR Realtor Association and the Broker Listing Cooperative. So I have been at MYBOR for almost 2.5 years now. So I feel like old school almost, I'm getting to be. We're going to talk about the Clear Cooperation Policy. And I like to begin speaking of the Clear Cooperation Policy with just a reminder of why we come together as an industry to cooperate and compensate. So really the purpose of the BLC is to facilitate this vibrant marketplace that we're all used to living in. So we're unlike any other industry, and it's sort of something that I have to remind myself of, because I think we get into the day-to-day grind and we're just like, get that listing in the BLC and get that house sold, and we don't really like step back and say, why do I put it in the BLC? What's the purpose of us all getting together and sharing listings? Sorry. Somebody's. So I just wanted to remind everyone that that's the purpose of it, that we're unique, that we all get together and we share our listings with one another, and how lucky we are to be able to facilitate that marketplace and to create those efficiencies. And to really make you all of you, all 86, now 9,200 of you, the definitive source for listing data in the Indianapolis market area. So just to go back a little bit, MYBOR has a strat plan, and we don't do anything unless it aligns with that. And it's really important to us. It guides our work. It guides the work of all of the volunteer leaders that we have. It guides definitely the work of all the staff department, the BLC, which are to be the definitive source and to ensure market efficiencies. And in those veins of being the source and creating efficiencies, the NAR, the National Association of Realtors, back in November at their meetings, and I don't even remember where we were now. I've been doing this for 22 years. I'm like, where were we in November? At their NAR meetings in November, they passed a new rule that all BLCs that are owned by realtor associations are to adopt by May 1. That is the deadline to adopt. So we're coming upon that deadline. And I have it here on your screen. I'm not going to read it for you. But basically, this is the rule. They said, take this rule, go back home and figure out how to implement this particular rule into your marketplace. So specifically, you'll see the very first part of it says within 1 business day. And I need to make sure that everybody understands that that part of the policy only affects listings that are initially withheld from the marketplace. So the 1 business day, because everybody probably knows, hopefully you know, that our marketplace, we have 2 full business days, right? You have 2 full business days to get your listings into the BLC to offer that cooperation to other brokerages. So that is not changing. And I'll delve more into that now here soon, but just a really important note is the 1 business day, the change from 2 to 1 only applies to those listings that your seller initially requested that house not be exposed to the greater market. All right, I'm going to move on. So this is a really simple way to think about the new policy. If you start on the left and you go to traditional listings, nothing is new here. Nothing has changed. You don't need to change the way you do anything. We, the BLC, did not change anything with regards to a traditional listing. You take the listing, you put the sign in the yard, you walk away, you have 2 full business days to process it in the BLC. The days on market accumulate from the list date, just as they do now. Marketing is clearly encouraged. Showings are allowed. Everything's great. Your sellers are happy, and the whole BLC or the BLC is made whole because your listing is processed in a timely manner within those 2 full business days. So traditional listing, nothing new. Sellers need time. So that is like the most often reason that we're told that people need to withhold the listing from the market. So it's not so much that they don't have intent to process it, but the seller just needs some time to prep. They need to paint the walls, they need to have the carpets cleaned, you need to have your professional photography done, and they can't get out there until next Friday. All of those reasons. It doesn't matter the reason, your seller needs some time. And those are important moments of time that they need, we want you to be able to take that home on the market in its best, with its best foot forward, all ready and set to go. So we also do not want you to have that time period between the time that you're ready, that you're talking to these people and you're in their living room saying, I am the realtor for you, I'm going to do the best job for you. We don't want you to walk away without a signed listing document, right? We want you to have a listing contract because we want you to secure them as your client. So the seller needs time. You have a couple of options. So go ahead, get the listing contract signed every time. People say, oh, I'll just post date it. Don't do that, because during that time, you are not protected. The time that you don't have, if you post date the listing contract out 2 weeks, during that 2 weeks, you are not guaranteed compensation if you're the procuring cause of that sell. So get the contract signed. Now, come back to the BLC. You're not going to be ready in 2 days because they have to get the kitchen redone or whatever the case may be. You have two options. You can go ahead and process it as active, just as you would a traditional listing over here in this far column. And you have up until 7 days. You can set the field that we call available for showing to no for up to 7 days. Now I'm going to pause right here, and I'm going to step away from the clear cooperation policy, because this is something that is more COVID-19 related. And I don't mean to confuse everybody, but I think it's important that everyone understand that due to the current situation of the pandemic, MIBOR BLC has just recently and very temporarily suspended the rule that requires you to have showings available within 7 days. And that is specific to the COVID-19. So, and there's an addendum that we put out for you to have the ability to say, my seller does not want to show their house right now. They don't feel safe having people in it. That is their choice. We want to give your sellers the ability to feel safe while trying to market their property. And so we have currently suspended the rule that requires you to have showings available within 7 days. Now, going forward, we will put that rule back in place. I don't know when, because all of these unknowns right now, nobody knows when. Nobody knows when I'm going to be able to go back to 1912 North Meridian and actually go to my desk, right? And so we are waiting, and we will communicate that to everybody. We'll tell you, you guys will be screaming it from the rooftops that the rule that requires you to have a home available to showing while it's active is back in place. We will let you know. But that we don't have a date right now. I can't guess for you. Okay, so that is an aside. That's a little bit of a sidebar to the COVID-19 situation. So now back to the clear cooperation policy. By the way, Rosie and Mark, I didn't really ask if you wanted me to monitor questions, because I'm not. Do you want to just save questions for at the end? Is that okay if we just kind of write those down, or I can go back to them?
Yep, absolutely. Right? I'm having people post them in the chat, or I'll have them jump in later. So you just keep going and we'll handle them afterwards.
And sometimes I answer the question later inadvertently. I don't even know I'm answering it. So, okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so back to the clear cooperation policy. So the seller needs time. The second option, if the seller needs time, and this is the option that we're putting forth as best practice when your seller needs some time, is to take the listing directly into the temporary off-market status. And we have built a tool that we did a webinar on Tuesday to help people that do add edit. We taught everybody how that's going to look in the add edit section. So you're going to be able to take a listing and not pass it through active, but rather directly input it, submit it into the temporary off-market status. In the status, days on market do not accumulate. It's not sent out to feeds. It's not going out to those third-party data aggregators. It's not going out to IDX. And marketing is permitted. So you can market it. You can Facebook it. Some people refer to it as like an amp up time, like a time that you're gonna kind of get a bunch of buzz going on this listing, and you're gonna have this date that it's going to be available. The most important thing about temporary off market is there are no showings. No showings. That is the case now in the temporary off market status, and it will continue to be. You can't show it. Your seller can't show it. Nobody can show it to anyone until it goes active. So that's the option if your seller needs time. And that is to be in line with the clear cooperation. We want you to be, when it's available to be shown, it needs to be available to be shown to everybody. That is what the BLC is all about, right? Is the every prospective buyer has the same right and the same ability to see a house when it hits the market. Okay. So then the final column on the bar right is office exclusive. Now this is where we're entering a little bit of new waters. We have not had a document for what we are calling an office exclusive listing. We have a document right now, an exempt listing disclosure. That exemption, the form that's called the exempt listing disclosure, is going away. It is being retired, and the rules surrounding exempt listings have been sunset. They're going away. So instead of an exemption, because there is no longer the ability to exempt a listing from the BLC, you can't just say, I'm not going to play. You can't just, the best analogy that I think Shelley uses is that you can't have a community garden and only take tomatoes and never go in and water the plants and plant your own plants. You can't just take from it. You have to be able to give and take. So there's no more just saying, I'm not going to share my listings. There's no more exemption. So that what you can do, which we have the ability to do, is for your seller, due to privacy. So they have maybe a circumstance where there's a divorce situation, or they are a celebrity of some sort, or something that makes them not want to have the entire world know that their house is for sale, for whatever the reason is. There is now an office exclusive form, which I will show you. These listings never get activated in the BLC if they have been made an office exclusive. They're submitted to the BLC within 2 business days, but they're set as an incomplete status, and only the BLC staff, your broker, and the listing agent can see those types of listings. So they're there for compliance only. You cannot, this is the most important thing, no public marketing is allowed on office exclusive listings. So that means you can't Facebook it, your seller can't Facebook it, you can't share it on any social media, you cannot put a sign in the yard, because true office exclusive and you put a sign in the yard, then the need for privacy is no longer, right? You've just told the whole world the house is for sale if you Facebook it or do something like that. So an office exclusive is truly exclusive to your brokerage, to Platt Collective, and you can share it amongst yourselves. I get this question a lot. Cannot, even if it is inside of your brokerage wall, office exclusive, you cannot broadcast it to the 600 people in your that's public. Now we've just gone public again, right? These types are those that with whom you have a current right now today relationship, that you're trying to represent them on the buyer side to try to find them a house, and this office then happens to fill. So that is the new office exclusive. It's saying my internet is unstable. Am I freezing it? Am I back? Are you there? Okay, sorry. Guys, it just flashed on me, I think. So I think I'm back. Okay, so this graphic is from our website.
Nicole,
we have a new, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, would you mind going back and going through the office exclusive one more time?
Sure. I'll do it
Sorry about
again
that.
here. That's all right. I'm going to go forward and do it again there.
Perfect.
Because I have it again. Okay.
That's great.
Sorry. Did I freeze up for a while? I apologize.
No worries at all.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I'll come back to office exclusive. This is a really good way at the budgeting and a different option on a website. Clear cooperation. It's very okay. So active but is temporarily suspended. So right now today you can put a house on the market active and have available to show set to no due to the COVID-19. Soon that will be reenacted. And at that point, you'll have those 7 days. If you only need a week, use this option so that it's in the BLC and you get your 7 days of no showings. Temporary off the market. Days on market do not accumulate, and remain that's by the list. So if your seller needs 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever the case may be to get ready, because somebody said, what if I need to redo a whole kitchen? And they're going to do that before they go and have showings. I'm like, then let them do that. So an important point of clarification in a new way, temporary off market used to, and I think today still does until next week, move listings into withdrawn after like 30 days. And I don't know how that rule happened. I wasn't here when it was set. That is really not the best system action for us to be moving a listing from TOM into the withdrawn status, because withdrawns require a mutual release to be signed by the seller. It's option B on the mutual release form from the Indiana Association of Realtors. And so for us to move a listing into that status without verifying that you have that mutual release signed is not correct. It's not the right way. And so we stopped doing that. We're going to no longer move your listing into withdrawn. So there will be a date field, temporary off market until. And then you're going to determine the date on which you want your house to no longer be temporarily off market. And on that date, we'll move your listing into active for you. So it's going to go the other way. We're not going to withdraw it because it's not withdrawn. It's in this temporary market or off market status. And we would hope that eventually it's going to go active to be shared with all participant subscribers. I think Rosie knows more about that, Mark, whoever attended the webinar, but that is a different behavior that the system's no longer going to move them to withdrawn. So if you want it to remain in temporary off market, let's say, and you're approaching that until date, let's say you set it for 2 weeks and the 2 weeks is come and gone and they're like, I'm still not ready. I have 4 more rooms to paint. Then you can go and extend it and update that date to keep it in the temporary off market status. And then when they're ready, they're like, okay, it's the 21st and we're ready. Then you just change that to the 21st and the next day it'll go active for you. Okay, so right now, this is the way that we're facilitating those temporary off market until dates. You would fill out the top part, this option number 1, that the listing shall be moved to temporary off market. And then here on page 2, you would have resumption of showing addendum, and this showings will resume on date will be the date that it would go active. We will be modifying this document as soon as we are back to business as whatever our new normal is, and we'll be removing option number 2, because that option number 2 is the COVID-19, which is the ability to have it active while not showing it. And that option number 2 is going to go away eventually. But right now, this is the form because of the current situation. So this is available again on our website at myboard.com/clearcooperation. It's also available under the resources tab in Matrix. And it will also be available anywhere where forms, like when we have BLC forms, it's going to be available there as well. Okay, here's the Office Exclusive. So I'm going to go over Office Exclusive. I think I cut out, so I'm going to sort of do this more comprehensively one more again, because I think you might not have heard me the first time. I apologize. So Office Exclusive listings are really for those times that sellers need the privacy, that they're either a celebrity or they have certain situations that they don't want the rest of the world to know that they're selling their home. Sometimes that comes with divorce. Sometimes it comes with whatever life brings, that they say, I don't want anyone to know that I'm selling my house. So it's more of a privacy issue. So for Office Exclusive, days on market accumulate from the list date. And the reason for that is because you're able to show the property. So if you're able to show it, then it's on the market because somebody can go see it and buy it. And so the days on market begin. Temporary off market, no showings means no days on market. So if you don't want those days on market to accumulate, you use the temporary off market and you don't show it either. But you can't have it both ways. You can't go show the property using an Office Exclusive and have your listing days on market not accumulate. So days on market begin accumulating just like a regular listing from the list date because it can be shown. Public marketing, and there is a definition for public marketing, which is in the form, it's on our website, it's in our rules, it's defined all over the place. And I'm not going to go over it, but it's a sign in the yard, social media, a mass email, sharing it with another brokerage is not allowed. None of those things. You have to keep it in the brokerage walls. That's thus the name Office Exclusive. And an office does mean a brokerage. So there are brokerages with numerous offices and they can share it with all of those offices. And I always get this, which I'm sure will be a question, which I haven't looked at the questions yet, but I get the question of, doesn't that give them advantage? Doesn't a larger brokerage have an advantage? Well, they've always had the same advantage. Nothing is changing there. By just being who they are, they have a greater number of people in their office. But I also reminded a super wonderful person that called and said, but I'm a small broker. I said, but there are people that want you too. So there's value proposition in every different brokerage model, but we can't change that. We can't take away that advantage. We can't tell them that they can't have an Office Exclusive listing. They've been around for 100 million years. They sometimes are called pocket listings. They're called whatever you want to call them. And they're going to remain. And that business model of being able to market something within your brokerage for those situations that are private issues, privacy issues, has to be allowed. So showings are only allowed by agents in your office. And this is the kicker, and this is really the policy. This is the clear cooperation policy, if you will. That if that listing that you held off and it's an Office Exclusive and you kept it within your brokerage walls, if for some reason it is marketed out into the public, whether it's a social media post or you put the sign in the yard or whatever the case may be, then those listings, Office Exclusive listing that has been publicly marketed, must be submitted within 1 business day. That's the new clock. That is the only new clock, and it only applies to Office Exclusive listings. Every other listing that we've talked about so far is still 2 business days, 2 full business days. But if it's an Office Exclusive and you've been showing it and then they've tweeted out and say, hey, I'm selling my house to the world, then you have to process it in 1 business day into the active status, because the need for privacy is no longer, because they shared it out to the public. So these are the different ideas of what we consider. It's not limited to. So there could be other forms of what we would consider public publicly marketed. But this is a really good first effort at trying to sort of think of everything. NAR, this is from NAR. So it's IDX and VAL. You can't have it on your website. You can't share it with other brokers. You cannot put it on a digital media, digital marketing, yard sign, all of those things. Anything that the public can get their hands on, you can't share it there. And this is specific to office exclusive listings only. So here's the new office exclusive listing disclosure certification form. And that might look familiar if anybody, for any reason, has ever used the exempt listing disclosure form. So it's pretty much the same, but it's the language at the top has changed to describe the NA policy and make your sellers sign off and say, I understand that if I share it with the world, that I have to put it in the BLC as active. So this form too is on all of the places that I've mentioned, myboard.com/clear cooperation under forms and in the resource list in the BLC. So here's where I almost am done. Before questions, this is the listing status quick guide, and I am the author of this. So if it's horrible, you can blame me, and if you love it, then it's my fault. It's all my doing. I just tried to take all of the different statuses and give you a really clear look on when is public marketing allowed, when can I show it, when is days on market accumulate, when does CDOM accumulate, what do I need signed to do one of these? And I just kind of put it in a grid so that it's a very clear document to show you that this is what you need to do if you intend to use one of these different types of statuses. And again, this is available. It's kind of hard to find, and I'm going to talk to our team about making it more visible. But at that myboard.com/clear cooperation, if you scroll to the bottom of the page under resources, where I think there is now the video of my training on Tuesday, go past that video, and there are 3 bars, and one of them says listing status quick guide. And if you click on that bar, the PDF pops up. Sometimes, no disrespect, but communication people like things to look pretty instead of efficient. And so it's a little bit down the page, just so you know. But it's also under resources in the Matrix BLC. Okay, so now we're ready for questions. Here's the website, again, that I keep saying, the Clear Cooperation, help desk app, MyBOR support. My email is NicoleJensen@mybor.com. Everybody at MyBOR is their first name, last name at MyBOR. So NicoleJensen@mybor.com. And it is no accident that my first and last name both have 6 letters in it, so I can have that cadence when I say it out loud.
Oh, Nicole, thank you so much. We so appreciate it. I have a couple questions that have come in for you. Guys, keep sending them in. Okay, so first question I have is for temporarily off market. Can you have a sign in the yard?
Yes, you may. Okay. Absolutely. Amp up period. Tell the world.
Perfect. Okay, for the temporarily off market form, do we get the entire form completed, including both sets of signatures, before we turn it into MyBOR, or do we need to submit it twice with each set of signatures?
We don't want that form. That one's for you guys to be able to facilitate those changes. And so you can decide if you want it to be signed all at once. If you think you know the date that you're ready to start showing that property, go ahead and have it signed. Have the top portion signed and sign that other piece on page 2. And then if you need to, you could just do an addendum to it to push it out further or something. Or the other alternative is just have the first part of this form signed and then eventually, but I would submit to you that might be more of an internal thing, that how you guys manage that. It's all about transparency for that temporary off market piece. As long as you're somehow have in writing that your seller knows that their house is in that status, temporary off market, and it's not being available to be shown, and they understand they can't show it either and you can't show it for them, That's the purpose of that form. So we don't need that one, but that's a tool for you to better coordinate with your members, with your realtors.
Perfect. Okay. Next question. If we have a listing that is currently temporarily off market and will be going into May, I'm guessing, how will it look on MyBOR? Do we need to change anything with that listing and the temporarily off market setting? And do we need to get the temporarily off market form signed now?
I would have that temporary off market form signed. That would be best practice. And then I'm not sure your model, whether your broker ad edit or if you allow your agents to ad edit.
We let our agents ad edit.
So and so that video that I talked about on that clear cooperation page might be very good for all of you to look at if you do your own ad edit, because it goes over how you would manage that. So once that tool becomes available inside of the BLC, there's going to be a temporary off market until date. There's a new field that's going to be called temporary off market until, and that is how you're going to control what happens to that listing. So, and I said during training, it was supposed to go live on Tuesday, and now CoreLogic is Thursday, and I'm going, we're getting rather close to men here, and I apologize. It's just they have so many different things I think that have come at them with the pandemic, that some of these things have been put. I know we keep getting a little bit further back in time, so I apologize for the delay. But as soon as that tool is available, you'll be able to go in and add that temporary off market until date to be able to control when that listing then would go active, and you'll just update that new field. So that you're able to keep it as the temporary off market. And then when you're ready, when your seller is ready, you'll allow that date to occur. Meaning, like, if I wanted it to go live tomorrow, I would leave 4/16/2020 in that date field. And then tonight, it's going to go over to active for you.
Perfect.
Did I answer that?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, last one I have right now. How does this affect the concept of coming soon?
Yeah, so the buzzword coming soon is kind of like a pocket listing in the world of BLCs or what we call MLSs in some other markets. It's sort of a slang term. It's not really a thing. It's because some would argue that coming soon listings have arrived because they are signed listing contracts. And so is a coming soon something that you are protected or you're not? So in the world of BLC, the world of cooperation and compensation, it is all based on those dates. And so that was an option for us at MyBOR. We could have walked in and said, all right, that's it. We're creating a new status and it's called coming soon. And we chose to not go down that path. And I'll tell you why, not to get too into the weeds, but I think it's important to understand that we just recently, probably 18 months ago, just got done getting rid of a status. It was called active with contingency. If everybody was around then, you might have remembered when we pulled that one back. We feel very strongly that it's old, like adding a status was the most difficult way to handle this new policy. And we felt that we could take the new policy and really fit it within the framework of what MyBOR and what you all know in our marketplace already does and already has, all of the statuses we already have. Because to us, it's pretty simple. When you think like about a listing, it's either off the market or it's on the market, right? It's either active on the market or it's off the market. Either you can go see it or you can't, and so we really tried to keep it simple and cause the least amount of disruption to the marketplace. We felt very strongly about that. We're not saying that eventually we might not come back to this, revisit and go like, you know what, this is not working. What were we thinking? Let's do something different. But we feel strongly that going like just beginning here. Let's start here. And let's see if using these two tools, the temporary off market and the office exclusives, if that gives us what we're after, which is really true market transparency. That's all we're after. We just want you all to know about the listings. We don't want you to have a buyer call you and say, hey, there's a sign in the yard. And then you go to the BLC and you look it up and you're like, I don't see it. That does not make you the definitive source. You look like you don't know what you're talking about. It's not fair to you, right? So that is what the point of this policy is that if there's a sign in the yard, it's gonna be in the BLC. It might be under temporary off market status, but you as the definitive source, as the expert in this market, can go in the BLC, search temporary off market, and find that listing and say, yes, it is in a more off market status. I'm going to reach out to the listing agent and see when I can get you in the house. And now the definitive source again. So that is what we're after. The policy is to make you guys the experts. Anything else?
Yeah, that's perfect. Mark, it looks like you might have a question. Do you want to jump in?
Nicole, is Nicole frozen? It looks like she's frozen. Are you with us, Nicole? There you go. Yep.
I am. Darn it. Sorry.
No, I think
My
you're
bad.
I want to hit on two things that I think are the most likely issues or kind of gaps in understanding. And I'd love for Nicole, for you to comment on these if you'd like to. Number one, the office exclusive, to be determined how big this becomes, in terms of our practice. But one of the things I'm not sure people are thinking through that I want to highlight is it's not only if you market the property to the public.
Yes.
So if you take an office exclusive listing, you are, in a sense, you are accepting responsibility for any publication of that property. So if your seller gets onto Facebook and says, hey, here are some photos of my house and it's for sale for $200,000, and contact my realtor so-and-so for information, that's no longer an office exclusive. And so that's something I think that we're going to have to work to be aware of. That starts a 24-hour timer for you. So there's something that's out of your control there. So I think in terms of communication with your client, the burden of them understanding what office exclusive is fairly high. I'll transition to my second, but Nicole, do you want to comment on that at all? I'm sure you guys are talking about this because I think this is going to happen a lot.
Yeah. So, and there is a pretty big, let's see, how do I want to say it? It is going to happen, and it is something, I mean, it is basically, it's not our intent to make it difficult to take an office exclusive, but it is actually like the way you think of one. Because I think in our marketplace, and I think numerous marketplaces, we have been using these exempt listing disclosures. And so in that, you sort of like harbored your seller in the fact that I'm going to do this all for you. I'm going to get this thing done or something, or whatever the case may be, but I'm going to tell the whole world about it while not sharing it with the BLC. Such is not the case anymore. There is no more of that. Like I said, and this is sort of when I struggled with this at the beginning, but I think somebody said to me, if the public knows, then the professionals should know, right? And that's the bottom line, is that if they want an office exclusive, they've chosen to work with you, and you're a network of 9,200 people who have all agreed to get together and sell houses together every day. And you've chosen to be a part of the BLC. You benefit from it, and everybody benefits from it equally. And these rules are intended for that benefit to be certain. And if you, so you go to your seller and say, I'm a part of a cooperative, a broker listing cooperative. I have 92 other people who do what I do, and we get together every day and we do this together with each other for each other's listings. And they say, I don't want to be a part of that. I just want you to do it. The only reason that they can make that choice is because they have a privacy problem. They have something that they do not want anyone to know they're selling their house. That's the point. And if that's the case, then they certainly shouldn't be like Mark said, posting it to Facebook, because then they clearly don't have a privacy issue anymore, right? And so that's really the difference, is that exemption used to be able to say, I'm going to do this off MLS with you because I know people. I'm going to find the right people, and that is not the case anymore. And there's really a lot wrong with that. If you think about it, it's not just the BLC. It's really also a fair housing issue, because there really shouldn't be a time or a moment where everybody who's looking for a house doesn't have equal opportunity to see it and go and try to buy it. And that really is a piece of this that goes deep for some, that they feel very strongly that there were certain little networks of realtors in the nation that were sort of getting together behind closed doors or in private network settings and selling houses to only specific sets of customer clients. And there's that piece of it too. So there's so many things that don't feel good about the type of things like exemptions. And really, it's just not, it doesn't align with the whole purpose of the BLC. The BLC, you're either in or you're out, right? And you're a part of this cooperative. And to be a part of it, you have to be all in. And you have to be able to benefit just like you do taking from it. So it's kind of goes both ways.
That's good. Second thing I wanted to throw out there, Nicole, I'm also for our agents on the call, I might be putting Nicole in an awkward position by asking her to comment on this, but I think it's worth talking about because we know it's going to happen. So if your mind is working quickly enough right now and you're thinking about temporarily off market as a status, you're thinking to yourself, oh, okay, I could see agents using TOM as a new version of what people used to use, some sort of coming soon or exclusion. In other words, that I have certain ways I can market the property so long as it's in the BLC and marked as temporarily off market. I think that's likely going to happen, but one specific thing about that Nicole, you hit on this earlier, but I want to reiterate this. If a property is temporarily off market, it can't be shown.
Right.
Anyone. Are we concerned? Is there concern in the industry that some of our peers, no one at Plat Collective would do this, I'm sure. Are we concerned that peers in the industry will kind of skirt the intent here and have temporarily off market until they get a phone call directly from a buyer and say, yeah, great, I'm going to change the status right now. Happy to show it to you. Where one of our agents calls them and says, hey, when can I get in to see that? The broker says, it's going to be off the market for another 30 days. A buyer calls them directly and the broker says, oh yeah, great. I just need to go in and change the status so that it's now available to anyone. I'm being devil's advocate here, but if you haven't, as realtors, if you haven't thought of this yet, you're going to. So now, Nicole, in the awkward position, don't speak negatively about anybody in our industry, but go ahead.
I've thought a lot about it. And I'll be really honest with you. When I first heard about Clear Cooperation from a 22-year veteran of running MLSs, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like I had a little heartburn because I approach everything from a compliance policy, right? I approach it as like, okay, we can create all the rules you want, but how am I going to make compliance work? How do I enforce that you can't go to a house? I have no idea if you're showing a house, right? So that is a really good question. I think that's kind of comes back to we are going to have to watch this thing, right? So I would caution anyone that's thinking of these types of things in that if you do it once and don't get caught, shame on you. If you have that as a business model, shame on me. So by that, I mean, if I see a pattern, which I am going to be watching, I'm going to be doing my due diligence in watching people and how many, we already do this. We watch how many people have days on market of one or that type of thing. Like if somebody is setting things to temp off market and then activating and they go pending that same day or the next day, or, also people will let us know that my client called, they said Thursday and it went pending today, so you're going to get caught. I mean, you can only keep all the balls up in the air for so long, just like anything. But with any policy, you guys, any policy, there are going to be people that we call, so as to be correct, politically correct, is we call them creative. There are going to be those people. And I sit at the ready to try to determine who they are and how to make it so that they can't play that game. I mean, that's where this whole policy came out of, is what I call people selling houses behind the cloak of exemption. It's a cloak. It's not a free and fair marketplace if there are all of these different things happening. And so this is our best effort right now to thwart that behavior, to get rid. I mean, I don't know how much of a one-in-one problem we have. That's what I call it, by the way, a one-in-one, like me and myself and I, and we'll just have to watch it and see what we need to do. But I do think that if you continually sell houses in temporary off market, it could be considered an unfair advantage. I think it would be a violation of the code of ethics. I think you could be written up for not playing fair and being, exclusive, if you will, which is never a good thing to be when you are a realtor. We have to treat everybody the same. I would argue that if you do a deed, like if your seller's okay, I think we should show it to those people, I would think that it would be in your fiduciary as a licensed person to open it up for at least 24 hours for everybody who's been waiting to see it, because who knows what kind of money you could get them if people are looking, So there's really that's a 3-prong, your fiduciary duty as a licensee, your code of ethics violation, and then the BLC violation. So, I mean, if I find there's a pattern, I could come at you from all 3 sides, really. License violation with the Attorney General, the code of ethics with the professional standards, and a BLC fine. And by the way, the BLC fine is, I'm trying to think of what we made it. I just typed up the whole. Were you in the room there, Mark? I
think it was $500.
No, it's more, because the office exemption is $500, but the showing I know the office exclusive. If you or your seller or the seller's mother-in-law shares it to a social media or publicly markets it, I'm going to not talk. Oh, I know. Just a second. Let me see if I can find it. I'm sorry. I don't want to say wrong. It's a severe fine. And so those aren't going to be in place until this summer sometime, because we have this education period that we want to have, so that we want to make sure that I'm doing exactly what I'm doing with you guys. So that everybody knows. So you can't come back and say, well, I didn't know. And there is a warning. You get a one-time, warning, but it's a pretty severe penalty. And so all I'm saying, I guess I'm going to just go back and not try to find the thing. I can share it with Mark and he can share it out. It's going to be on the website as soon as it's the compliance policy is put back in place, because right now we're just educating. But it's such that if you do it one time, or if you accidentally, somebody shares it and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to be really clear with them, you're going to take education to get out of it one time. But then the next time there's no more, and it can be a lot of money and a lot of undue. So you just have to be sure that those office exclusives are only used in the most specific cases. It's just really not, it's not necessary or good for anybody unless privacy is really truly the issue.
Nicole, if we encounter a situation where, you know, we're trying to hold the industry accountable, one of our agents is representing a buyer, they reach out to a listing agent of a temporarily off-market property. List agent says, yeah, you can see it in 3 weeks. 1 week later, the property goes pending, and we're looking at that saying, gosh, that feels like it was, you know, not in the spirit of the rule here. How do we hold our industry accountable in that situation? Where do we take that information?
You tell me.
Yeah.
So absolutely, that's the kind of thing that is going to allow me to police this. So if you see anything that you might suspect to be not in the spirit, like Mark said, of this rule of the cooperation compensation that you've all agreed to in the BLC, all of those things we want to know. I think we have what is it? It's compliance@myboard.com. That's the email address. Or on that listing, right underneath of the picture, there's a little triangle, you know, that you can click on to report errors. You can click on that as well and submit it that way and say, this listing I asked 3 weeks ago and now it's pending and it never came active. You can report it that way as well, because it goes to the same staff person that does compliance, our compliance officer. So,
and I would give all of you encouragement that, you know, I hear agents with good reason being a little bit hesitant to, like, you know, I don't want to spend my energy to tattletale or, you know, to cause problems to somebody else. And I understand that, but I would just encourage you to understand that you, as a good actor in the marketplace, trying to abide by this, if someone else isn't abiding by this, it's making it harder for you to follow the spirit of cooperation of our board. And so it is really important. And the other thing I would say is you submitting that communication to Nicole or to MyBoard anywhere, it doesn't guarantee that that person, you're not the jury. It doesn't guarantee that that person's going to get fined or get into trouble. You're just calling attention to it to make sure the industry is held accountable. I can assure you, MyBoard has very good peer review processes in place that no one's getting into trouble or, you know, facing penalty of some kind without assurance that they did actually violate a rule. So right. You don't need to worry about, oh, I'm not sure they violated the rule, so I'm not going to say anything. Mm-hmm. If you have a reason to be suspicious, then do communicate about it.
Yeah, and it's always under an anonymity. Always. Like, we're never going to do and say, like, hey, Dave said that you sold the house. What's you know, that's obviously we would never do that. It's always in anonymity. Everything is redacted when it's sent out to the committees or the groups that review these things. James, my team does a really good job of trying to work the front lines and make sure that there seems to have been a violation before sending those on. I'm not going to say that it never happened, that we send one and they're like, no, because of this. And we're like, oh, so sorry. You know, I mean, there are those moments, we're human, but you know, Mark's right. Like, we're only as good as our data, and we're only as good as having the same opportunities. So we appreciate those moments when you tell us, hey, can you just take a look at this? It seems off. Or this is the 5th transaction that's gone into TOM and gone pended on this particular broker. Could you just, you know, reach out? Because we have the right to request documents from anybody. So if I have a problem, if we have a problem, I can say, I need to see that listing agreement. I need to see the purchase contract. I need to see this to be able to look further at it. And eventually it will catch up to whoever the bad actors are, because we made it such that it's not going to be able to be just the cost of doing business to act poorly in the spirit of this rule. It's going to increase and such. And so it's something that is not going to be taken lightly. And like I said, if we revisit in 6 months and we're like, this has not solved the problem, or we have, you know, it's this or that or the other, we can revisit in the BLC policy committee, and the MSC board of directors can determine at that time if we need to look again and figure something else out. But we felt like this is a good place to start.
Thanks, Nicole. I had one more question come in.
Sure.
When a property is temporarily off market, agents can verbally negotiate with that property and even submit an offer sight unseen, correct?
Yep. That
Perfect.
is absolutely true. Like, there's never going to be a situation that I can prevent somebody walking up with, like, this is what I say, or what Shelley and I say. You can't prevent somebody walking up with a suitcase of money and saying, I want to buy your house, and I've never been in it.
Yeah.
I can't prevent that. But when the financing comes through and it says conventional 20%, then we might have a problem. Because likely the house had to, or show me an addendum that says I, seller, bought this house sight unseen. There's going to be something to evidence that, right? So like, these are the types of things that people can say that once or twice without providing me documentation that that is the case. But I mean, it has been the case. Like, NAR just sent out a survey, and I don't know if y'all received it, but there are homes being bought right now today that's sight unseen because they don't want to let them in. So they're buying it off of a virtual tour,
Right.
I bought my house without ever having set foot in it. My mom had, but I hadn't.
Yeah.
So there are circumstances where that is possible.
Yeah, that's great. Guys, do you have any other questions? Send them in via chat, or you can unmute yourself real quick and ask. Anyone?
My neighbors are mowing, so I hope that's not interfering. It's one thing. It's another. My dogs haven't barked, so we've had it's been a great meeting.
You're doing great. You know what? We're all just working with these really weird circumstances.
Just gotta make it work.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm not seeing anything else come in, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Thank you so much for coming. Nicole, thank you so much for presenting. We learned so much from you. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And everybody stay well, and I hope to actually see you all soon.
Same here.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.